Hello people, in this video we want to look at priority questions from community medicine. So the topmost priority for you is modes of intervention. So in natural history of disease, you know that there is levels of prevention, and under each of these levels of prevention you have modes of intervention. Did you understand, people? So about each of these you explain, okay, if they ask. So under primary prevention you have modes of intervention are health promotion, health education. Specific protection is immunization. You get immunized against a specific disease like COVID-19, you get immunized against it, right? Then you have early diagnosis and treatment is the mode of intervention under secondary prevention. Then under tertiary prevention, you have two modes of intervention: disability limitation and rehabilitation. That means that this is at the late pathogenesis state. So some lesions have occurred. See here, early lesions have occurred. Make sure that it doesn't go into advanced disease. So what you do is disability limitation and rehabilitation. Okay. So which is the cheapest one, guys? Cheapest one in all this is primary prevention. Primary prevention is going to be your cheapest. These two are going to be cheapest. Primordial prevention is also there, that they have not mentioned here. Actually, before primary prevention, you also have a primordial prevention where you make sure that the risk factors itself do not appear. Okay. So if somebody asks you modes of intervention, what will you say? Health promotion, specific protection, early diagnosis and treatment, then disability limitation, and very good, rehabilitation. Okay. The next most important question is this one: epidemiology. Define epidemiology. What are the aims of epidemiology? Classify epidemiology and give this time, place, person distribution. Okay. Okay, so what is epidemiology? It's the study of the distribution, determinants, and health related events, states or events. Okay, so two D's should come here. The study of distribution and determinants of what? Of health related states and events. So you're studying the distribution and determinants of health related states and events. Two things only you're studying: distribution and determinants. Actually, in whom are you studying this? In specified population. Okay, what distribution and determinants of health related states and events in specified population, and application of the study to control health problems. Okay. So you should understand that you can write it even more sophisticatedly. Study means scientific, systemic, data driven. So epidemiology is a study, scientific, systemic, data driven study of what? Of the distribution means the frequency pattern, and determinants, that means the causes and risk factors of these health related states and events, not just disease. Okay. In whom? In specified population, that is neighborhood, school, states, country, etc. And the application of the study to control health problems. As simple as that. Same thing they have elaborated. Okay. Then let's move on. Components are the same: distribution, determinants, and frequency also they're adding. If you want, you can look at these three. Okay. Then coming to aim. Aim means, you know what? There is a problem, etiological factors you want to find out. Find the distribution and magnitude of this problem. And then finally, plan, implement, evaluate, and solve this. Prevent, control, treatment. Okay. So three aims are there. One is this: find the distribution and magnitude, find the cause, and then plan, implement, evaluate, prevent, control, treatment. Okay. Then what is the ultimate aim of epidemiology? This is only the aim. Same thing: to eliminate or reduce the health problem, promote health and well-being of society as a whole. So eliminate and reduce the health problem, promote health and well-being of society. Okay. Then what are the did they ask? Different type of studies, right? They told classify it, kind of thing. Okay. So here you have observational studies and experimental studies. Only two things: observational and experimental. Under observational, you just observe, you will not do any intervention. That is why it is observational study. Here you have two types of studies, guys. You have the descriptive studies and the analytical studies. In the descriptive studies, you have the time distribution, place distribution, person distribution. Three things you have. Then once you come up with some kind of a hypothesis, then you will do this analytical studies, right? To understand if this hypothesis is true or not. So you have four types of analytical studies: ecological study, cross-sectional study, case control study, and cohort study. Case control, cohort you would have heard so much, so that you will not forget, but don't forget ecological and cross-sectional. Okay. And then coming to experimental or interventional studies, you have randomized control trials, that is RCT. Then you have field trials, and then you have community trials. Guys, if you have time, look at the alternate names for these also. Then let's check this. See what is done on patients. Randomized control trials or clinical trials is on patients. Okay. Descriptive studies is on population. Ecological studies on population. Community trials is on community. Okay. What else is it? Field trials is done on healthy people. Field trial is done on healthy people, guys. And then these three, cross-sectional, case control, cohort, are on individuals. These three are same. Cross-sectional, case control, and cohort are done on individuals. Okay, good. Guys, tools of measurement, if you want, just 3 words, you can get 3 marks. Okay, listen to this. Tools of measurement, how will you measure? Rate, ratio, proportion. 3 words, 3 marks you will get. You can explain more if you want. Rate, ratio, proportion. Okay, moving on. In the same question, they have asked time, place, person, distribution, guys. This is descriptive study, right? Focus, guys, high priority questions we are looking at. So they asked what? Time, place, person, distribution. That comes under descriptive study, under the observational study, under the descriptive study. So in the descriptive study, you have, you'll define the population, define the disease, check the distribution of this disease, time, place, and person distribution. You'll measure the disease, compare it with known indices, and formulate the hypothesis. So at the end of this, you want to come up with one hypothesis. So let's check the time, place, person distribution. So here you can see, guys, time, place, person distribution. Time distribution can be a yearly distribution, seasonal distribution, month, week distribution, day, hour, onset, duration. Duration also can be time distribution. Coming to place, it can be in climatic zones, based on the climatic zones, tropical, temperate, etc. Country, in which countries, in which region, and urban or rural, town, cities, institution. These can be the different types of place distribution. Then you have the person distribution, which can be age, sex, marital, birth order, family size, height, weight, also occupation, whether which socioeconomic status they are, education, personal habits, etc. Guys, so did you get it? So let us look at time distribution. In time distribution, you have short-term fluctuation like epidemics. Then you have periodic fluctuations, under which you have seasonal trend and cyclic trend. Guys, look at all these examples. Long-term, you have all these long diseases, secular trends. Okay. Place distribution, guys. So you have international variations, then you have national variations, and then new diseases. New diseases, Ebola has come, is it? Okay. Rural urban variations, you have local distributions, like you have to explain this Asiatic cholera in London. This is by whom? John Snow, right? Our epidemiology, father of epidemiology. When it comes to place distribution, there is migration studies also. Now coming to person distribution, we told you so many parameters are there. According to that, you can decide. Okay. So men will have more lung cancer, looks like, cigarette smoking because of that. Then women will have diabetes, hyperthyroidism, obesity. Upper socioeconomic class will have coronary heart disease, hypertension, diabetes. Lower will have protein energy, malnutrition, etc. Guys, as you know, we are not going into too many details. This is more like a revision video. Different age groups, there can be measles in children, etc., etc. Then in geriatrics, what can be there? Atherosclerosis, etc. Perinatal period. So different age group, different types of problems, right? Here they can ask you what is bimodal variation, right? Bimodal variation will have 2 different age groups. Look at this age. So there is bimodal variation. So where will you see bimodal variation? If they ask, you will say Hodgkin's disease, leukemia, female breast cancer. So it can happen in young females or old, very old females, right? So tell me 3 diseases which have bimodal variation. Hodgkin's, leukemia, and breast cancer. Okay. Female part of it. Female breast cancer, they're saying. Okay. Somebody will ask you, tell me this, diseases which have no age distribution, like influenza, typhoid, cholera, no age distribution. People, let's move to the next most important question, that is RCT, randomized control trial. So what and all do you know in randomized control trial? Basically, you will take a population and divide them into study group and control group. Study group will get the drug and control group will just get some placebo. Then you will check the outcome, right? You can check for new drugs, vaccines, any surgical procedures also you can check. So basically, it is done on patients. So here you have, it's an experimental or interventional study. It's also called as clinical trial. It's done on patients. So basically, there are some steps here. You will draw up the protocol where you will decide the aim, size, selection criteria, procedure, etc. Cooperation you will get of people. Then you will select the population. You will see if they are eligible. Only eligible people you will take. You will take their consent, very important. Then you will do randomization and divide them into a study group and a control group. So you will divide them into study group and control group. While doing this, you will do matching. You will put equal number of females here and equal number of males there. Age also you will try to match between both the groups. So this will allow comparability and it will remove bias. Everybody should have an equal chance. So that is called as randomization. Then you will, once you have the study group and the control group, you will do the manipulation or intervention. Study group will get the new drug. Control group usually will get a placebo. They will not know that they are not getting the drug. And even the person who's giving usually will not know what he's giving because all the tablets will look the same. So basically this will be an double blinding kind of a thing. Okay, so that will remove bias. So independent variable will be the drug or vaccine. Dependent variable will be the survival time, recovery period. Recovery period you can say because you're giving a drug to cure something, isn't it? So then coming to follow-up, then you will follow up their health status, you will check everything, and there can be attrition. Some people may not cooperate, they may not be willing to participate anymore, there may be deaths, migration, etc. Then finally, you will, after this study, once you're done, then only you assess everything. So you may get positive or negative results. Positive means you found that the new drug is effective. Negative means there were side effects or it was not at all as effective as you wanted it to be. So these are the steps of randomized controlled trial. Then what did we see here? This flow chart you can draw here. So what is this? You will find the suitable population. Then you will remove those people who are not eligible, remove people who do not give consent, then randomize, you put them into experimental group and control group, then you manipulate and then you do the assessment. Okay. Types of RCT, guys, you have the clinical trials, example for drugs and tonsillectomy, any surgery, etc. Preventive trials, in the surgery kind of thing, you cannot actually do blinding because the surgeon knows what surgery he's doing, the person who's getting the surgery knows what surgery he's getting. So blinding is not possible here. Then preventive trials for vaccines, etc. But you need more time. You need to follow up whether the person finally got the disease or didn't get the disease. So this will take more time. Risk factor trial, you will ask them to stop smoking, etc. and check the benefits. Cessation experiment, similar thing to that itself. Then trial of etiological agents. Basically, if you know that oxygen is causing retinopathy of prematurity, they started giving less oxygen to the premature babies after a certain year, and they saw that the retrolental fibroplasia decreased. Okay, the incidence decreased. Evaluation of health services. You can even evaluate health services, how good a health services or isn't. Okay, and they found that domiciliary treatment of tuberculosis is as effective as hospital, and it's also cheaper. So domiciliary treatment of tuberculosis is better, right, instead of hospital treatment. RCT is good, guys. It is better than so many other types of study. Random means equal and known chance. Okay. Control means comparison group. Trial means new drug or vaccine. Yeah. Okay. So we are done with RCT. So this is what they will ask you in the exam. Steps they will ask you. Types they'll ask you. Blinding they'll ask you. Blinding means what and all you have. Single blinding, double blinding and triple blinding. Single blinding means the person who is receiving, the patient or whoever the participant, he will not know what he's getting. Double blinding means the person who is giving the drug to the participant, even he will not know what he is giving. So there will be no observer bias. Then triple blinding means even the person who is assessing everything, he will also not know. He will directly go and ask the follow-up questions. He will not know what drug has been given. He will check the follow-up. He will analyze everything and finally he'll come up with an output, but he will not know who got what drug. So that will be triple blinding. Triple blinding is ideal best, but usually double blinding is followed. Okay. So the next important question in community medicine examination will be measles. Measles is very important. Where is it here? Yes, measles is also called as rubeola. Usually it affects children. Respiratory droplet, that is the way it goes. Okay. So you have three phases here. Prodromal phase, eruptive phase and convalescent phase. In prodromal phase, there are Koplik spots on the buccal mucosa and there can be Koplik spots. Measles. Okay, and then there can be fever and coryza, that is inflammation of the mucous membrane. So all this in prodromal phase. Then you have the eruptive phase. So what will there be? Irregular, blotchy, irregular pink macular erythema. Okay, better seen in daylight. So in retroauricular area they are showing behind the ear. What is this? Cervical lymphadenopathy. This is okay. So what are they showing here? Face and retroauricular area. Convalescent phase, guys, where you will see what? Pigmentation is left behind, rash is gone. Okay, so that's it. Complications of measles we have looked at. Encephalitis, what is that thing? It is called as, there's some specific name, right? Subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. Okay. How will you treat measles? Vitamin A. Then usually you will give only general measures, isolation, etc. Look at the vaccines. It is live attenuated vaccine. You should not give it to immunocompromised people. Basically, this is subcutaneous they will give. You can see here it's a subcutaneous injection. You will give it 0.5 ml. So you will give it at 9th month and 16 to 24 month. That's around 2 years. Okay, 2 doses they are giving. Now you have MMR instead of MR, that is measles rubella. They are giving MMR 9 month, 15 month, and 4 to 6 years. Immunoglobulins are also available, guys. You can see here in ILR, that is ice-lined refrigerator, guys. Here you can see ice-lined refrigeration. They're keeping measles at the bottom. Okay, so that will be more cold, isn't it? The next important question is geriatrics, guys. In geriatrics, you should know the problems of the aged, cataract, glaucoma, deafness. Mainly you should know this disease of locomotor system, which they really hate, cancer, diabetes, etc. Degenerative diseases, you can say, mental changes, impaired memory, sexual adjustment, jealousy, social maladjustment, etc. Then what did we see? We saw how to solve these problems, lifestyle, healthy aging, diet, nutrition, exercise, give up smoking, alcohol, right? Then social activities they should get engaged in. Then health status of age in India, very specific slide this is. So life expectancy at birth in India is 69.4. So the national policy was there on older persons in 1999. To implement this policy came the National Council for Older People. Then came the voluntary organization, self-help groups, association of older persons, old age homes, daycare centers, mobile medical units, national social assistance, that means money, pension. Then you have OASIS. This is a very important word that you can write to get marks. OASIS is Old Age Social and Income Security Project. Senior citizens, they get a card, they can travel at concession, healthcare, Bhavishya Arogya Mediclaim, some life insurance they can have. Then banking, they get increased interest rate, etc. This one is very important to write. Indira Gandhi Old Age Pension Scheme. This is 60 years and above. Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme. This came when? In 2007. Do not forget, in 2007 this came. When did it come? Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme, 2007, for 60 years and above people. So there is a contribution from the state and the center. Then HelpAge India, do not forget HelpAge India. HelpAge India, what will you write about HelpAge India, people? So HelpAge India, basically it's the largest voluntary organization working for elderly, free cataract surgeries, mobile Medicare units, income generation, microcredit, old age homes, daycare centers, adopt a grandparent, disaster mitigation. Some other important points in geriatrics, there are triple evils, poverty, loneliness and ill health. Age pyramid will tell you how the population demographic is changing, right? And then you'll have to plan accordingly. Then potential for disease prevention, primary, secondary and tertiary. Primary, they should take vaccination against influenza, pneumovax, tetanus. Now they're giving against COVID also. Right, then secondary, basically if the disease has already occurred, how to control it, how to early treat it, right, early diagnosis and treatment. In tertiary, you have rehabilitation and disability limitation, okay. There's natural history of disease, also important question. It's the sequence of events of a disease from earliest stage to its termination, right, and this is the pre-pathogenesis stage, this is the pathogenesis stage. Pathogenesis is once it has entered the person, so it will cause disease. So if it has caused disease, then this whole thing is disease. Before disease occurs itself, you can do two preventions. What preventions? You can do primordial prevention and primary prevention. If disease occurs, then you can do secondary prevention, that is early diagnosis and treatment, then tertiary prevention. You know the modes of intervention, don't you? So here you will draw the advanced epidemiological triangle. What do you have in advanced epidemiological triangle? Instead of agent, you have causative factors, host, then environmental factors, and in the middle you have time, isn't it? And then here you have the clinical horizon. So here you have the subclinical stage, and here you have the clinical features. Clinical features, you will have signs and symptoms, illness, disability, defect, chronic state, even death can occur. Or from illness, it can come to recovery also. Recovery is also possible. Okay, so it comes below the horizon, so you cannot see. So it's going on recovering, right? So here what and all you have: early pathogenesis, discernible early lesions, advanced disease, convalescence, okay. So basically here you will have some incubation period and etc. Hello people, in community medicine they can ask you pasteurization of milk, okay. So basically pasteurization of milk was given by whom? By Louis Pasteur, right? Hence the name pasteurization. You can not only do it for milk, for juices, beverages, everything you can do, okay. This is the pasteurization unit if you have seen in the milk dairies. So basically it's a physical method of sterilization. you're using moist heat, which is below 100 degrees centigrade. Okay. So there are 3 methods actually: holder method, flash method, and then there is some ultra high temperature method. Okay. Anyways, the flash method is the most used one. So look at this one. This one is most used. See, remember the holder method, 63 degrees centigrade you will heat it to. For 30 minutes you will leave it there. Minutes. Okay. Flash method, you will heat it to 72 degrees centigrade. You will heat it even more higher, and you will maintain it just for 20 seconds. Okay, at least 20 seconds. So just remember here 2, 2, and this is seconds. Okay. The first one was minutes, guys. This one is seconds. This one is the one that is mainly used. The flash method is most used. Okay. And then you will rapidly cool it to plus 13 degrees centigrade. Some books are saying plus 4 degrees centigrade. So just check this. Okay. It is all plus. That's what you have to remember. Cooling means you'll suddenly think it will become like ice or something. No, it is just cool to positive temperature only, or lower. So that is plus 4, you can remember, right? Then you have the ultra high temperature method. Okay. This one, in ultra high temperature method, they are going to use 2 stages. Actually, they are using plus 125 degrees centigrade and 2 stages, where the second stage is using pressure. Okay. So guys, here what and all will be killed? You look at that. In pasteurization of milk, what and all will be killed? Non-sporing pathogens. Mycobacteria, tuberculosis won't happen, brucellosis won't happen, salmonella, that is salmonella, typhi, etc. are killed. Okay. But what aren't killed are Coxiella burnetii. It is not killed in this holder method, but in flash method it's killed. So okay. So anyways, you're doing flash method only. So even this one, the one that causes Q fever, Coxiella burnetii also will be gone. Okay. What about spores? Some things are saying spores are not killed. So you'll have to maintain the temperature in such a way that they don't germinate. Is that the right word, guys? Okay, moving on, we are looking at pasteurization of milk. So basically there are some tests to check whether there is effectiveness. Test to check whether the milk is pasteurized. So you have the phosphatase test. Then you have the 2 more tests. Phosphatase test, okay, we will come to that. Then you have the standard plate count, where you will count the bacteria. They said that the limit should be per ml of pasteurized milk, it should be less than 30,000 bacteria count. Okay, 30,000 bacteria count, it should be less. But this looks very high to me. Anyways, coliform count, there should be no coliform in milk. Pasteurized milk should not have any coliform. Coliform means what? E. coli. There should be no, not even one should be there. Okay. Because these are completely destroyed by pasteurization. Okay. So, what else are we looking at? So, which are the 3 tests you saw? Phosphatase test, standard plate count, and coliform count. Okay. Phosphatase test you have already seen. Remember, you will add to the milk disodium phenyl phosphate, and this one will react with the phosphatase enzyme which is present in the milk. This phosphatase enzyme is present only in raw milk. So the milk will turn blue. If it turns blue, that means it contains phosphatase. That means it is raw milk. This phosphatase enzyme has not been destroyed. Actually, this enzyme was supposed to get destroyed by pasteurization. Okay. So look at this. Phosphatase test you have already seen in separate video anyways. Look at this. To milk, you're adding disodium phenyl phosphate buffer and Felling's reagent to give you the color. So basically, what will happen? Raw milk will turn blue. Okay. So raw milk will turn blue because it has this enzyme phosphatase. But when you pasteurize the milk, the phosphatase enzyme got destroyed. So there is no reaction. Milk will remain white. Even if it is partially pasteurized, you can get this blue color. Because partially pasteurized will still have this phosphatase enzyme. Okay. So the way this reaction works is disodium phenyl phosphate buffer will react with this phosphatase enzyme which is present in raw milk, giving phenol. This Felling reagent will react with phenol and give the blue color. Okay. So who will give blue color, guys? In phosphatase test, raw milk or partially pasteurized milk also can give that. Incomplete pasteurized milk also can give blue. So remember, this test is positive if you get blue. Incompletely pasteurized also it is possible. Okay. Then you have strips like this also ready-made. You can, guys, there is just one more test which is actually not related to pasteurization directly, but you can still write this methylene blue reduction test. Basically, you can detect microorganisms. Okay. So this is raw milk. Raw milk has microorganisms, so it gives very different kinds of colors. Okay, and how fast it changes color will indicate how contaminated it is with microorganisms. So what are you adding? You're adding just methylene blue. Okay, you're adding methylene blue to the sample. Okay, and it will just be blue. You're adding blue, it will just be blue in pasteurized or no microorganisms. If there are no microorganisms, it will remain blue. But if microorganisms are there, then the blue is destroyed and it becomes some color like this. Okay. So remember, in methylene blue test, blue color is good. But in phosphatase test, blue color is bad. You understood, right? did it become too much? At least remember one thing, phosphatase test, blue is bad. That's it in pasteurization. So this much is a summary of this video, isn't it? That's it, guys. Bye-bye.